Hi everybody, it's Don from Don's Family Vacations, and today, over the weekend, I was studying for my upcoming cruise I'm hoping to take next year, at the end of the year, to Japan. I'm kind of excited about this trip. It's been a while since I've been out there, and I decided I should bring up 10 things that are different in Japan than are here in North America. A lot of these things I knew already, and some of the things are brand new. So, yeah, if you're thinking on ever traveling to Japan, here are some things that you really should know about. And yeah, we're going to talk about it right after this. North American toilets are completely different than Japanese toilets. You may come across a toilet that is super high tech with music and heated seats and recliners and leg rests, and they look like this. But more than likely, you're going to come across a traditional bathroom that looks more like this. And yeah, for a lot of us, it could be a little confusing on what we're supposed to do when we're in there. That being said, a lot of the hotels and a lot of the places that you would visit that would have these kind of washrooms would have instructions on them. And yeah, I really like the warning sign on the instructions. Caution, cautions. Yeah, you could fall in. It's kind of strange. And you're also going to come across different types of toilets that'll have themes like Hello Kitty or Pokemon or something along those lines, or Japanese anime. So yeah, toilets are a little strange compared to what we're used to in North America. Number two, not so much in a lot of the large cities now, but in the smaller towns and the countrysides, and even in some locations in the large city, it's not polite to show tattoos. And there are even signs that businesses will say, sorry, we do not serve customers with tattoos. And the reason for this is tattoos in Japan have long time tradition tied to the Yakuza. And if you don't know what that is by nowadays, after all the movies that are out there, it's basically the Japanese version of the mafia that we would have had here in North America. So yeah, they don't like that. Having tattoos in Japan in the open is a sign that you are part of the mob or part of a gangster life or the underworld in any way at all. So yeah, if you're a person with a lot of tattoos, you may have a hard time in Japan. Number three, people are told, don't slurp your soup when you're young and be polite and don't have your elbows on the table and things like that. In Japan, it's very polite to slurp, especially when you're eating noodles or your ramen noodles or stuff like that. It's a sign and a symbol to them that you're enjoying your meal, and it's a compliment to whoever has prepared and cooked the meal for you. In actuality, to not slurp is an insult to the chef, saying that you're not enjoying the meal. And yes, a big hearty burp at the end of your meal is also a sign that you enjoyed your food. A lot of people, when they see a Japanese movie and they see the Japanese saying hi to a question, they're always thinking that that person is saying yes. But the real meaning of hi in Japan is I understand. So just because they say hi does not mean that they're saying yes. It might mean that they understand what you're saying, but they still don't agree with it. So hi does not necessarily mean, yeah, you're correct. It could be, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but you're an idiot and you're completely wrong. Number five, a lot of people in North America, when you visit hotels or skyscrapers, you don't see the 13th floor, and that's because of our own superstition of the unlucky number 13. In Japan, you may see the 13th floor, or you may not see it, depending if they're dealing with a lot of North American visitors or not. But what you won't see is the 4th floor, because in Japan, the number 4 is the unlucky number. And you won't see 4, you won't see 14, you won't see 24, And forget about 444, that is like a horrible number in Japan. Number 6, in Japan, they never actually say no. Saying no in Japan is considered very, very rude to whoever you're talking to. And so what they try to always say is, we will do our best, or we will see if it will work out, or something along those lines. To actually say no to a visitor, it's considered one of the most offensive things that you can say to a person. Number 7, in Japan, you don't tip. It's considered a complete insult to that person when you tip them, and an insult to the company that they work for. For instance, if you went to a hotel in Japan and you tried to tip the bellman or the waiter in the restaurant, they would look around to see if their supervisors were watching, because it's an extreme insult to that establishment to say that we don't pay our employees enough. And yeah, they take it very personally there as far as business is concerned in Japan. So, no tipping in Japan. In Japan, there are signs all over the place that'll tell you where to go and things like that, but there are also warning signs saying don't do things, especially on subways or in airports or in any of the religious areas of Japan or any political areas in Japan. And for gosh sakes, if a sign says don't do it, don't do it, because the ramifications in foreign countries can be a lot more severe than we're going to say you've been bad here in North America and please don't do that again. There you could be locked in prison for years for breaking some of the rules that they have. So be very, very careful what you're saying. I'm going to do it even though that sign says not to do it. You've been warned. It's at your own risk. Number 9. How do I say this? If you see a lineup and you only want to ask where something is, say in a store, but their cashier has like 5 people there, a lot of people will run up and say, "Excuse me, where can I find this?" And the store clerk will tell you, and then away you go. In Japan, cutting in line or interrupting a conversation is an extremely rude gesture. Gesture? Yeah, it's very funny. No, a gesture. In other words, I know of a case, in fact, where there was a long line to get into a show in Japan, and 3 tourists decided that they were going to cut in line. Those 3 tourists, thinking that, if there's strength in numbers, the 3 of us, who's going to stand up to them, because they were all like 6'2", 6'3", and in Japan, people are a little shorter than that most normally. What they didn't expect is that 55 complete strangers standing in that line got so upset that they jumped them and beat them to a pulp. And when the police finally arrived and broke up this altercation, they didn't arrest the 55 people who jumped the 3 people. They arrested the 3 guys for cutting in line because they were causing a disturbance of the peace. So keep that in mind. Don't cut in line in Japan unless there's 100 of you, because you could be in for a very bad time. And number 10, this goes probably for China as well. Don't get China and Japan confused. They are a completely different culture. They're completely different people. They have their own laws, their own rules, their own way of life, and they're totally separate from each other. And if you were to call somebody Chinese in Japan, they would be extremely insulted and would probably never talk to you again. So yes, they don't like to be compared to each other in either of those 2 countries. It's like going to Canada and saying you're an American, or going to America and you're saying you're a Canadian. We don't take it to the extreme of an insult, because these 2 countries are pretty close together here in North America, but they really take exception to it in Japan. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more travel tips and more travel destination vlogs coming up, please hit that like button and the subscribe button. And until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.